Tonight, Ansett has crashed again, this time its terminal. The Ashley Detention Centre is in crisis with more escapes and more allegations against the Governor-General. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Titmus. First tonight, the death of an airline. It's official. Ansett has collapsed and will not be purchased by Lindsay Fox and Solomon Lew. Flights will continue until Monday night, but after that, the airline's assets will be sold off.
The powerful Melbourne business duo, who emerged as the white knights of the dying airline, say tomorrow's deadline cannot be reached, and they have no choice but to pull out of the takeover.
We've been at this day and night, 90 lawyers on our side, for 5 months, tens of millions of dollars of investment in professional costs, and there has been no outcome. And we have had discussions with the administrator. There were issues still outstanding with the administrator, but there were basically third-party issues, non-delivery at this point in time of airports, non-delivery of aircraft.
I'd love to see somebody revive it for the sake of all of those people that are associated with Ansett. When you take on a task like this 5 months ago, and you have done it 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hours a day, and you've given it your best shot, you say, where the hell are we at this particular time, and why haven't we achieved what we originally set out to?
First Ansett flights today, and it seemed like business as usual, but it wasn't long until the dreadful news hit, an ACTU official confirming the airline is finished.
It's over here.
The timing has left staff, passengers and administrators stunned just 1 day before the deadline to complete the purchase. The administrators admit it's a complete shock. Tesna had signed up 20 managers, offered jobs to 3,000 workers and had arrangements in place for catering, golden wing and frequent flyer deals. The stumbling block appears to have been terminal and aircraft leases.
I said earlier that we're perplexed and continue to be so on the basis of yesterday, Mark and I were of the opinion that this deal was going to complete.
The administrators say an offer last night of extending the deadline was rejected.
We looked at possibilities of extension and in terms of, you know, is it 24 hours you need or 48 hours? But they continued to indicate that their legal advice was that they couldn't complete.
Lindsay Fox and Solomon Lew say they have been committed to the takeover of Ansett, pouring enormous time and resources into the purchase of the airline, but say now that will be impossible to achieve.
Having already been hit hard by the Ansett crisis, Tasmania should at least maintain its flight capacity while Kendall survives as a separate entity. But devastated call centre workers are again left on hold.
160 Launceston call centre workers who stuck by Ansett rather than taking redundancies are again wondering how they'll get by. The majority are members of the Australian Services Union, which is fighting for the entitlements of workers around the country.
They are right in the process of almost having completed the allocation to their new positions and classifications in the Launceston call centre. So this news is another bombshell from the heavens.
But Premier Jim Bacon is cautiously optimistic other work can be found for the staff.
We are continuing discussions with other potential operators of the call centre, though I would caution against any immediate result on that because, of course, the lease of the building, even though we own it, is still in the hands of the administrators of Ansett.
Things are slightly better for Tasmanian travellers, given that Kendall Airlines broke away from Ansett in September. Its administrators working to secure a separate sale. While this process continues, Kendall will keep flying into Burnie and Devonport 3 times a day and King Island once a day.
Everybody who's made bookings on those flights can book travel on those flights as they had planned, and let's hope that Kendall will continue flying as long as we can.
Kylie Skipper, Southern Cross News.
2 Ashley escapees on the run from an overnight breakout are still at large. The latest escape forcing government action. Yet another inquiry into security at the Deloraine Detention Centre.
In the wake of continuing disturbances and escapes, last night was the last straw. 2 inmates making it over the perimeter fence and away.
Time after time we see either a riot, a disturbance or continued escapes. This brings the number up to 6 within the month of February alone.
Today the Minister announced an investigation.
Physical security at the Ashley Detention Centre was state-of-the-art and is state-of-the-art. But detainees are still escaping. Given our investment in Ashley, this situation cannot continue.
Last night, a false fire alarm automatically unlocked the detention centre doors. On February 4, a detainee was undertaking his escape for several hours, but was not noticed missing during routine checks.
Everyone at Ashley, staff and management, is responsible for ensuring the safety and security of the detainees. The purpose of the investigation is to ensure that the responsibility and accountability is maintained.
The union's fears staff could be used as scapegoats.
Is that it seems to be directed at investigating individual staff and not looking at what all of the issues out at Ashley might be that may have contributed to this.
Simon Pilkington, Southern Cross News.
With the Premier in full damage control over Incat, he's now trying to shore up his position regarding the Devil Cat service, with the Liberals calling for the Premier to come clean and make his decision public regarding the future of the Devil Cat. Those around him are coming to his aid.
Just days after his policy of running an Incat vessel across Bass Strait got the nod from federal cabinet by its refusal to bail out Incat, Bob Cheek was continuing to talk up his plan.
It is a win-win situation because what you have is supporting Incat, but also it is the best option for tourism. It is the best.
But it's been revealed Prime Minister John Howard wasn't aware of state government deliberations over Bass Strait sea travel until a phone call with Liberal leader Bob Cheek on Saturday, the day after he met a delegation requesting assistance for Incat. It's prompted accusations the delegation was sabotaged by Bob Cheek and Erica Betts.
I can't remember another example in Tasmanian political history where the opposition leader and a Liberal senator has deliberately set out to undermine a delegation to the Prime Minister.
Bob Cheek hit back, accusing Jim Bacon of trying to shift the blame for his failure to secure federal support.
The Premier is quite rightly, I suppose, a bit miffed and upset that he was shunned by the Prime Minister.
The one person he thought may have supported his policy, Incat boss Craig Clifford, has backed the Premier's handling, agreeing his company's financial woes and the future of Bass Strait travel aren't linked.
You know, it's not appropriate to link the two at the moment for our present purposes, but people will try and draw that linkage in.
And it's prompted allegations of populist knee-jerk politics from the Tourism Council.
Well, Bob Cheek is really grasping at straws on this particular issue. Virtually all of the states are on side in terms of supporting the two monohull policy, and I think Mr Cheek really is just playing silly politics. It's about time he let it go.
Gerard Cholton, Southern Cross News.
The Queen and the Governor-General have met in Adelaide at the start of her trip to Australia. Dr Peter Hollingworth had a private audience as he faces continuing calls for his resignation.
This can't have been comfortable for anyone, except perhaps Bill Clinton, who was leaving town as the Governor-General arrived. For Dr Hollingworth, waiting as the Queen's jet taxied in, another allegation, that he wrote a reference for a church choir master, but didn't mention the man had been investigated for sex abuse. He says he did detail it in a follow-up reference.
And there she is. Her Majesty's just emerged and is coming down the stairs. She's wearing a beautiful pale golden coloured outfit.
As protocol demands, the Governor-General was the first to welcome the Queen to Australia, safety in formality. The Prime Minister there too. It looked like any other royal tour, pleasantries in public, but this one is different, overshadowed. Not that the Queen can't handle it.
His suggestion that unimaginable embarrassment is being created for the Queen in relation to this issue is, to say the least, a complete beat-up.
It was a big, friendly welcome in the streets of Adelaide, and for most, the Governor-General's problems are not the Queen's.
It's really nothing to do with her.
But there was a protest, the white balloons, an international symbol of the fight against child abuse.
At the very least, stand aside and at best resign from the position.
At Government House, the Queen and the Governor-General met privately. Some pictures allowed at the start, but no questions and no details of what they said. After the Governor-General, the Prime Minister. So far, everyone still seems to have their job, except perhaps the keeper of the Royal Limo in New Zealand. It conked out as the Queen left for Adelaide. There'll be a state dinner here tonight, but the Governor-General won't be going. Officially, he won't see the Queen again until he farewells her from Brisbane on Sunday.
Regional talks in Bali are off to a rocky start, with Indonesia giving Australia a diplomatic slap in the face over its treatment of boat people.
It was supposed to be a goodwill gesture, Indonesian President Megawati Sukarno Putri opening the world's first people smuggling conference. At the same time, she was beating her own drum, appearing to criticise Australia in front of 56 countries over our tough border protection laws.
We have witnessed some impatient governments taking unilateral steps to protect their national interests. There is no justification for one country to impose its will as it wishes.
But Foreign Minister Alexander Downer insists the diplomatic swipe was not directed at Australia. He's staying focused on hopes the two-day forum will lead to people smuggling becoming a crime.
Let me assure you that Australia is committed to working closely with regional countries to address people smuggling and trafficking.
Australia and Indonesia both hope there'll be action on issues from the root causes of people smuggling to the resettlement of asylum seekers. Already it's clear this conference is unlikely to produce any concrete measures, but rather a voluntary agreement between nations to work harder.
It won't be about putting in place further treaties or anything of that character.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, the colour of the Launceston Cup, and Russell Crowe gets jammed all over a poem. A record crowd has turned out for this year's Launceston Cup. 15,500 people made their way through the gates for what is more than just a day at the races.
As the atmosphere began building at Mowbray, Launceston Cup organisers knew they were in for a bumper crowd. The mild weather and promise of a popular social day drew both the regular punters and those who only glance at the betting book looking for their favourite colours. In the mounting yard, and those colours were on display as trainers and owners paraded their prized possessions in the hope of some Cup Day success. The betting ring was the usual hive of activity. There might not have been any 500 to 1 favourites, but still plenty of bargains for those willing to take the plunge. Back among the crowd, and it's clear why people choose this cup as their big day out.
Oh, a bit of fun, mate, and it's groovy, baby. It's a groovy day. I'm going to have a bit of fun.
Because we love the atmosphere, the betting, drinking, of course.
I thought it would be really exciting and something to do and something fun to have a look at horses, because I really love horses because horses are my favourite animal.
Tim Robertson, Southern Cross News.
And of course, highlights of the race a little later with Rob Fairs. Russell Crowe is in Sydney tonight for the Australian premiere of A Beautiful Mind, the movie tipped to win him another Oscar. But it's his temper, not his acting, creating headlines in London after he lashed out at the producer of the British Academy Awards.
Russell Crowe.
Replayed on a TV special, the British Academy Best Actor's speech cut short.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
The director editing out Crowe's quote of an Irish poem about saintliness, firing up the actor's diabolical temper. At the after-awards dinner, celebrity guest Sting allegedly warning the show's director, "Careful, Russell wants blood." Crowe's minders reportedly led the TV executive into a room where the star was waiting. Crowe is then said to have pinned the executive against the wall, launching into a rage of four-letter words and kicking chairs across the room before snarling, "I'll make sure you never work in Hollywood." The tabloid Sun newspaper claims Crowe exploded. "I don't give a who you are. Who on earth had the audacity to take out the Best Actor's poem?" The newspaper says the TV director Malcolm Jerry was shaking, thinking Crowe would belt him. Confirming the incident to 7 News, Mr Jerry's spokesman says although Russell Crowe was abusive and unreasonable, no action will be taken. The production company claims Russell Crowe wasn't the only winner edited for the TV special, but unlike the ceremony, had strict time limits. In London, Tim Verstegen, Southern Cross News.
G'day, folks.
New crash test surveys have uncovered the best in Australia's most loved driving icon, the utility. Front and side impact testing shows Holden Commodore and Ford Falcon Utes are the safest in the country, both achieving a 4-star rating for occupant protection. Toyota's Hilux, Holden Rodeo, Ford Courier and Mazda Bravo all tied for 3rd place. The latest crash tests show Utes have become dramatically safer over the past 7 years, reducing the chance of head injuries by 75%. Unidentified gunmen have shot dead 9 people and wounded more than 10 others in an attack on a Shiite mosque in Rawalpindi near Pakistan's capital Islamabad. Eyewitnesses said an unknown number of gunmen opened fire on between 30 and 40 worshippers during evening prayers in the Shahinaf Mosque. The wounded included 2 teenage boys. It was the second attack on Shiites in less than a week in Pakistan's central Punjab province, and posed a new challenge for military ruler President Pervez Musharraf in holding his restive nation together. Mainly Sunni Muslim Pakistan is plagued by sectarian violence, which claimed 400 lives in 2001, particularly at places of worship. To finance now for Shadforth, the financial advisors. The Australian share market closed significantly weaker today. Falls by News Corp and AMP contributed to the lower market, while a bright spot was a sharp rise by Qantas Airways on the collapse of Ansett. One Aussie dollar buys 51.37 US cents. Let's now check out all the day's sports news with Rob Fairs. And Rob, one of our Olympic heroes back home.
And everyone wants a slice of Stephen Bradbury, Steve. That shortly. And it's all systems go in the skilled Tour of Tasmania. Good evening, everyone. Olympic gold medalist Stephen Bradbury has returned home to face another non-stop round of celebrations. His life has been overturned since skating to victory, and it's unlikely to change soon.
A short stop over in Sydney and a sign of things to come for a Brisbane-bound Bradbury.
It's going to be pretty scary, I think, when I get up there, so maybe this is a nice little briefing.
His gold medal performance captured the world's attention as he sailed past his fallen competitors and into Olympic history.
Is going to come through and win gold!
Back home, he stepped into another hero's welcome. Australia's first Winter Olympic gold medalist, still coming to terms with his achievement.
Sounds kind of impressive, I suppose. I don't know if it will ever sink in.
He's unsure if he'll compete in next month's World Championships, but he'll be hanging up his race skates after that.
Obviously, the ultimate way to walk away from a career that's, you know, taken me from the bottom to the top and bottom, and we're all over the place over the last 10 or 12 years.
His Olympic performance may have been a little unconventional, but Bradbury says all he ever wanted was to do his best.
Satisfied myself, so no, that was the only goal for me, and the medal was just a bonus.
As for the gold medal, the 28-year-old isn't planning on anything fancy.
I'll just put it on the mantle, I suppose.
To racing now, in the feature event at Mowbray this afternoon was the 2002 Amy Launceston Cup over 2,400 metres. Here are the closing stages.
St Andrews forcing a passage in the middle, and then IMAX as they swing. Darlington grabbed the lead out wide. In the centre's the Ray. Here's St Andrews on the outside, looking to make history. St Andrews, the Hobart Cup winner, ran to the lead. He looks to have them beaten. St Andrews, Maskell riding vigorously, and St Andrews takes out the Amy Cup. What a performance!
St Andrews, the winner, paying $8.30 and $2.70. Second was number 12, Bondi Iceberg, paying $2.40. And third was number 5, IMAX, who paid $2.30. The Quinella was worth $31.90. The trifecta, $208.20. To water polo now, and a boost for Tasmania with 6 players selected to play in the National League this year. The competition, which started in January and runs until May, involves 22 home and away matches and will give Tasmanian water polo the chance to showcase the best players in the country, as well as provide a pathway for Tasmania's best juniors to national level competition. Tasmania home games will be played at the Hobart Aquatic Centre against Victoria and South Australia from tomorrow until Sunday. The first stage of the 5-day cycling classic, the Skilled Tour of Tasmania, got off to a chilly start in Hobart this morning. With almost 80 riders and 16 teams competing, Tasmania's mountainous terrain is set to be a gruelling challenge to Australia and the world's best.
Preparations began in chilly conditions in Hobart this morning. Race director John Trevorrow says with a different race ahead, it's hard to pick a winner.
Most other times we've finished with a stage up on top of Mount Wellington, and that's really narrowed it down to 3 or 4 selections before the race starts.
As 75 riders started the Hobart to Kingston bar Huonville stage, he says now the toughest stage will be Friday's St Helens to Launceston run, with lots of climbing testing the stamina.
The Japanese team have got a couple of very good climbers. The New Zealanders are renowned for their climbing ability.
But Olympic gold medalist Brett Aitken says it's the local blokes you've got to watch out for.
This is their home ground. They know exactly where the hills are and where the sprints are, and it's going to be really hard to beat those the local guys.
It's our first race for the year, so we'll be heading away after this, so it's a great preparation for going overseas this year.
Averaging speeds of 40 kilometres an hour over today's 97 kilometres, the finish line saw South Australian Russell Van Hout as race leader, Victorian David Pearl as sprint champion, and Tasmanian Sid Tabele as King of the Mountain champion. Stage 2 goes from Swansea to St Helens tomorrow. Kay Wilkinson, Southern Cross News.
Well, Steve, that's sport. I'm off to collect my winnings now.
Now, come clean with us. How much did you win on the Cup today?
Enough for a shout.
Good on you. We'll see you after the news. Kenny Saville along shortly with the forecast.
He's back. Friday.
This is Detective Inspector Frost.
David Jason stars in the network premiere mystery.
Corruption leaves a nasty taste.
The coppers are at each other's throats.
Scams, fit-ups, and fabricated evidence.
But there are murders to solve.
We are dealing with a vicious and obsessive man.
Many unanswered questions and a truly stunning climax.
Don't let me go!
A brand new touch of Frost.
There's a feeling you get when you create a car from the ground up, when the sky is the limit. There's a feeling you get after 9 years of teamwork, when it's all beginning to come together. And there's a feeling you'll get when we share with you the chance to bring a dream to life.
Me hearties, come and dig up your treasure from Chicken Feed. Latest release movie prints in quality wooden frames. There's Lord of the Rings and Monsters Inc. $17.99 each. Ladies cotton blend socks in the latest fashion colors are crazy $2 a pair. And the back, jumbo size tennis balls, just $10. Cute and cuddly bear backpacks, $2.99 each. Beanie bears in all the zodiac signs, $2.99. And check these out, 6-can cooler bags, $2. And extra large cooler bags, just $3.99. So rush in and find your treasure at Chicken Feed.
It's sale time at Neil Pitts. A genuine sale with genuine savings store-wide and with extraordinary value for money. This Neil Pitts sale is one of their biggest sales with top-quality menswear at amazingly low prices and is one of Australia's best men's clothing sales. Plus, these amazing prices can be also found in the big men's department. For style, quality and genuine savings store-wide, it has to be a Neil Pitts sale. Now on Brisbane Street, Launceston.
Tonight's weather, proudly presented by Guns, building futures in Tasmania.
Good evening, there's Mount Direction and picturesque Montrose Bay Reserve at 2:30 this afternoon. And it looks fairly reserved, everyone's still at school. Well, a bit of a mixed bag about the place today. Showers in the west and south, fairly fine and clear in the remainder. Hobart had 17, 21 for Launceston and Burnie, 20 for Devonport. Today's top was 22, and that was at Edison Point in the east. Fairly cool in Jeeveston today, 15. Even cooler in Queenstown, 14. 20 at Bicheno, Scottsdale, St Helens. 18 in Campania and King Island. Now, today's chart shows a cold front off our west coast. That crossed during the day with another front there off Western Australia, and that's approaching rapidly. On the satellite, and we can see the cold air with motley cloud to our west and a couple of cold frontal bands there in the Southern Ocean. Close-up shows the cloud over the west and south, fairly cloud-free in the remainder. Tomorrow's chart sees another front off our west coast. That'll cross and bring an even cooler southwesterly change later in the afternoon. Coastal waters and west-northwesterlies at 10 to 20 knots. They'll strengthen in the afternoon to 20 to 30 knots, and that's over most waters. 30 to 40 about the south. It swells to 3.5 metres. Warnings and a strong wind warning is current for waters between Tasman Island and Low Rocky Point with a small craft alert for the lakes. Windy in Hobart tomorrow, 2 showers develop later, 9 to 19. Fine until a possible late shower in Launceston, 8 to 21, with showers later on the coast and a top of 20. UV, very high 7s for the south, 8s for the north during any sunny breaks tomorrow. Showers developing towards the evening in the east, St Helens 22, Swansea 21, and showers in Strahan 17 degrees. Looking on to Friday, and windy and showers for most areas. Showers in the west and south, but mainly fine in the remainder on Saturday, with a mainly fine day on Sunday. Fine in Perth tomorrow, 30 degrees. Not too bad in Brisbane, 30 as well. And a cooler day in Melbourne, 21 degrees. And Carrion and Hobart, fine, 16 degrees. Still quite nice in Launceston, 20. And fine in Devonport and 17 degrees. Looks like a few showers later, Steve.
Just keep that brolly handy. Thanks very much, Ken. Before we go tonight, 7 people were killed and 15 injured when 2 freight trains collided head-on outside Vienna in Austria. One of the trains was carrying motor cars and the other trucks when one jumped the tracks and slammed head-on into the other. The accident occurred 30 kilometres south of Vienna. Earlier figures had put the number of injured at 30. Of course, the train carrying the trucks also had on board 20 of the drivers, most of whom were from Hungary. And that wraps up the news both abroad and at home for this Launceston Cup evening. I'm Steve Titmus. Good night.